Beating the masses, already defeated by self. It is not hard to be one of the top people in today's world because the road to success is packed with people who think they deserve that which they haven't earned. People who would rather be doing something other than what they're doing. People who are oversensitive to mistreatment. People who depend on cheating and handouts. People who won't sacrifice their comforts and pleasures to strive harder. People who are afraid to take risks. People who can't handle the thought of losing and would rather quit when it gets rough. People who are fine with losing as long as they tried. People who allow those who they care for to distract and interfere in their missions. People who rely on luck more than hard work, and much more. That's I'm gonna elaborate real quick on these. Sometimes on these chapters, or they're not the chapters, but the paragraphs in the chapters. And you can see there's titles to each paragraph that starts. But this is I'm happy to say and sad to say this is an American habit. You know, I personally believe we've achieved the American dream, which a lot of people don't understand what the American dream is. The American dream is to have everything done for you. And the fact that we all have cars and air conditioning and food at a grocery store, you know, we don't have to hunt for ourselves. We don't have to build our own homes. All we have to do is earn this money, and we hand it to someone, and someone will do something for us that we could not have done for ourselves. You know, from building a bridge that crosses the Mississippi River, and we drive on it every day and never even think about the fact of how did they get these posts into the ground underwater. We don't even have to think about it. So we've achieved that, but we've created a habit of not even being appreciative of these things that are being handed to us. So it makes us lazy. Now, all of this stuff is supposed to help us to be better. It's supposed to make things easy for us. But most of us are using it as a reason to retire our lives away. So that's where, when I say a lot of people, especially in America, you know, we're already defeated, because we got all these comforts and things handed to us that we no longer appreciate or even acknowledge. Okay. Corrupted by comfort. It's kind of what I was just saying. Sadly, much of today's modern people have developed entitled, lazy, unhealthy habits and ethics that form a mass of people that are easy to beat when competing against in just about anything. Masses of the upcoming generations don't want to work, let alone want to work hard to strive for something that they have a chance of not achieving. They would rather take the loss of not trying than a loss of trying and failing. The lack of humbleness and humility in modern people leaves them vulnerable to collapse whenever things start to get hard for them. Thinning themselves out. Even the lesser percentage of people who start off climbing strong will most likely lose their momentum as time passes. The road lengthens and rewards and recognition dissolve. They will discover or create good reasons to quit and do so. When striving to be great at something, the majority of the competition can be defeated easily before the hard challenges even become into sight. Then there are only a few dedicated people like yourself left to beat. And here's some of my valuable personal tips on how to beat all of them that I use personally to dominate the competition and challenges in my life. Study. Whatever your chosen craft is, be sure that you like it so you won't flake out due to the boredom of getting better. Study the ins and outs of your craft, including its history. Learn all about how and why it was formed and put together. Read and understand everything about the procedures and tasks that you have to perform for your craft. Know what you are doing, why you are doing it, and what you are trying to make happen when you do it. Even learn what you have to do to fail miserably. Get a mental grip on the process before trying anything physical so you can envision yourself performing the physical acts before you do them. This is something that's really important here when I'm elaborating here. When I trained in MMA, I made sure every martial art that I was going to use, I went back and learned why the person who created it, who he was fighting, what he created it for to go against, what was the objective of this art, such as Russian Sambo. When I learned that the objective of Russian Sambo was to take out 3 soldiers instead of 1. Where the creator knew that when you take out 1 soldier, you kill him, you motivate 2, because now they're angry and they're coming after you. But if you break 1 soldier's leg, then it takes 2 soldiers to carry that soldier. So, and then you're going to tire those soldiers down who are carrying the 3rd soldier, so you took out 3 men. So understanding those types of things helped me to understand the idea of what was trying to be accomplished when executing those techniques. So you always want to know what you're doing, know where it comes from, know what it is. Okay. Learn mechanics and steps. Learn the proper technique of every skill that you're expected to execute. Don't rush through the mechanics. Do it in slow motion, do it forwards, do it backwards. Do it safely with your eyes closed. Learn to do it in every direction and position that you can do it from at minimum speeds. This is where you build a solid foundation for your skills and protocols. Make it strong and reliable. Do not alter the way that the skill is done until you have learned it fully without flaw and you can recall it without making any mistakes. Then if you feel the need to make adjustments to better fit you, consider and experiment with it. That chapter, elaborating here, when I learned jiu-jitsu and Russian Sambo, judo on the ground, the actual grappling arts, I studied, and I started training with my eyes closed because I noticed that I'm touching this guy's close to me. I can feel his distance. For him to strike me, he has to have so much distance between us for it to be effective. So as long as I keep him in this area to me, he can't strike me. And I ended up learning that I could grapple better with my eyes closed than with them open. Because when my eyes are closed, the sensitivity to my body, I was using my feel all the way down to my toes and where my body was on my opponent. And I could feel his body weight shifting and moving. I could feel his intentions. I could feel his body tense up down here. I could feel his weight go that way, which means he was going to go this direction, that direction. And I learned that I could actually grapple better with my eyes closed than I could with them open. So even on some of my fights, you can get lucky on the later fights because there wasn't a lot of good cameras back then when I was fighting. But if you look in, you'll see me, my eyes are closed when I'm fighting my opponents, and they can't get the advantage on me. So that just shows you where even doing something with your eyes closed, you might find out you can do it better than with your eyes open. Train expertly. Train ridiculously with your new skills or protocols to become an expert at executing them without thought or hesitation. Practice in places and at times when you are not expected to practice. Then practice in places and at times where you are expected not to practice. Make these skills a part of your everyday life and mindset. Try to catch yourself off guard and execute the skills. This will program the skills into your muscle memory and into the section in your brain that will eventually make these skills reflex responses instead of thought upon acts. Train until you are bored and have worn the fun out of your training. Then continue to train until you're too bored to notice that you're bored. You will be amazed at what this will do for your performance. I can remember in my class one time, one of my instructors, I've had instructors who I trained and certified, and I've had several of them, and one of the kids was saying, I love doing arm bars, I love doing arm bars. And my instructor looked at him and said, that's because you haven't done enough arm bars. I thought that was just a perfect example for what he said, is that, when you train in this, you have to get to the point where you're bored. You're bored doing it, and then you keep doing it. That's when you start reaching expert level. You can't do something, whatever it is you do, if this is your expertise, I don't care if it's cooking. It can't be where this is a hobby. It's just fun, and that's all you're doing is fun, having fun doing it. When you let your mind get to that point of boredom, your mind you step away from yourself, all right, and your intuition starts to pick it up, or your subconscious, and that's when it grabs a hold. Next thing you know, you walk down the street, somebody, grabs you by the shoulder, and you hit them, and you don't even know what happened. You're like, oh my goodness, but that's a reflex reaction, and that's why you don't, harass people who are highly trained combatants, because they can't harm you. We all know that for a fact. But that goes with anything that you're learning. I don't care what it is. If you're a scientist, if you're a teacher, whatever it is, you should be told to be an expert. You have to do what you do to a point where you become bored doing it. Okay. Recruit the abandoned. Learn and absorb anything dealing with your craft that is being ignored, forgotten, or neglected by others. People tend to follow trends, with one of those trends being the neglecting of useful info and items because others are neglecting them. The info and skills that you acquire that everyone else has missed will function with just as much effectiveness as a new skill that they have yet to learn. It will be something that they cannot contend with or defend against because it will be foreign to them. Very important paragraph to me. And I'm going to tell you this twice. But Ron Smith, my trainer, when he trained me, we would always train basics. You would watch, we start his class, and with me, it was jab, was the first thing. Second round was jab cross. Third round was hook. Fourth round was uppercuts. It was basic techniques, and then combos came later. But you watch anybody else, and they always start with fancy elbows, fancy knees, all this stuff that cannot be executed in a real fight. It was just most of them weren't fighters, so it was okay for them to do. But me learning these basic, simple, easy things, and us paying attention to the things that everybody was forgetting about. and me becoming really, really good at it is what dominated my fight career, if you ever pay attention and watch it. But one of the main things we use, and this is a secret for you, is straight punches. Straight up the middle, jab and cross. Most people do not use that because they think it's not fancy enough. They want the wild loop, uppercut, all this head movement stuff that their body's not even built to really even handle. When straight punches are hard to block, they're quick, you're safe from when you throw them. And I use those to dominate my fight career. And I even pass it down when I took probably about 15 fighters to the World Muay Thai Classic tournament. And that's what we train with. I said, guys, you're going to dominate these people with straight punches up the middle because they're all going to be trying to do Muay Thai, fancy, having their hands out, wanting to do the Muay Thai style. You stay tight here and come straight up the middle. And my students just dominated with boxing, straight up the middle, straight up the middle. So always keep that in mind. The things that everybody else has ignored or forgotten because they think, oh, that's old school stuff. That's brand new to them. It's not, because things don't, there isn't with the martial arts. Sometimes you get a new technique that's fancy that may dominate old techniques, but it's very rare. But some people make a fad out of thinking watching YouTube videos and learning all this new stuff is what makes theirs better, and that's not true. So sometimes look at the old stuff, because that old stuff is what created this. This is what made it, and that stuff is solid foundation, domination. You get a hold of that. Okay, if you're into architecture, when they built this building, what kind of cement did they use? How did they get these studs around it? You study that, research that, and then these guys, all they're talking about is the fancy new windows and the beams up high and all this good looking stuff, and then they're gonna put their building up and they're swaying in the wind and desks are sliding across the room, and you're saying, well, that's because you didn't use this foundation that they used 300 years ago when they were building this. So always keep that in mind. Lose to gain. Give up the comforts and pleasures that may in any way interfere with your productivity. Do not allow instant gratification to enslave and slowly dissolve your chance at success and greatness. If needed, wean yourself slowly from the things that prove difficult to abandon. Replace the destructive comforts and pleasures that you remove with new comforts and pleasures that are either harmless or complementary to your mission. When I was a professional fighter, I had just came out of state club. I went into 18, came out at 25, 26. So I'm sure I was motivated to find women, motivated to go to nightclubs, to hang out, party. I had no life yet. Everybody got the experience in college with fun and education. I did not get to. So I was anxious to want to do that. So what I did was, first of all, I got a job as a bouncer at a bar that put me in a place where I could see the ladies if I wanted to, and I was around the excitement. Okay, but I didn't drink alcohol, definitely didn't smoke cigarettes because I was a professional athlete. Now, the other thing that I did was the weekend would come, and I know I want to go out because I was young. I had tons of energy. I was a good enough looking guy to have tons of friends who wanted me to hang out. So I bought the PlayStation. It was a PlayStation 1 back then. And I got into video games. Well, those kept me at home because I was excited to solve Resident Evil or whatever it was instead of wanting to go out and play. So I replaced needed for excitement with something that kept me at home. So always find something, you replace the things that are bad for you with something that's good that at least keeps you from doing the bad things. Push yourself regardless. No matter how you feel or what the occasion, if the activity that you are participating in is in any way related to your craft, be sure to get all that you can out of it by giving all of yourself to it. Safely push yourself further than you want to push each time, even if it is only a little bit by bit. If you dedicate to this one day at a time, those days will add up into weeks and months of additional betterment that your competitors don't gain. This will place you ahead of them in skills and abilities with what will seem to be superpowers. Don't ever quit. Deleting the idea of ever quitting from your options. Excuse me on that. Delete the idea of ever quitting from your options. Regardless of how bad you lose or perform at times, how defeated or embarrassed you feel, how hopeless things may appear to be, do not allow quitting to be an option. Boost your humility and sacrifice yourself to be dominated and teased by the others, even if you are the worst person on the team. Learn from your mistakes and master the correction of them, so you don't keep slipping on the same banana peel. Develop a do or die mentality towards your craft. Function as such, and you will continue to fail until you eventually succeed, or you will be dead first. But you won't be a quitter. That's really important. When I first started learning jiu-jitsu, I had Dad learned it, didn't know anything about it. And the guys who were black belts and experts at it would dominate me, of course, because we weren't punching and striking, and I didn't know it. And I was allowing myself to learn. I told I said, guys, let me say this. I'm the village idiot. Please beat me up. I need to be beat up in here. I am your dummy, your practice dummy to try this on. And that's what I did. Is even when I would lose a fight, that's the mentality I'd come back with and challenge everybody, challenge anybody I could, challenge the best that I could. And then there was no embarrassment in losing, which helped me to become better. Ban interference. Do not allow anyone the authority to distract or interfere you from your mission. Create boundaries and rules that protect your craft from others. Inform family and friends of these boundaries and enforce them without favor. If someone is offended by your rules to success and refuses to follow them, I suggest that you remove that person from your life as soon as possible, because that person does not care for and may possibly despise the idea of you succeeding. Protect yourself and your mission from the devious, spiteful, neglectful, mindless, and even accidental mishaps of others. Your craft is yours to defend, not theirs. Top 10%. Follow these disciplines to your craft and you will beat 90% of the world in whatever it is that you choose to do, placing you with the other top 10%, which is where your real challenges begin. The disciplines that you follow to make it to the top 10% will have your habits already primed to face your challenges head on, full throttle, to become top of the 10%. Simplicity is genius. The simple secret to becoming your best above the rest is to do what you know you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, regardless of how you feel about doing it. Master this behavior and the world is yours, along with the warrior's edge.